Well, here we are in my kitchen, and I'm just going to go ahead and put this out here because waiting for the right environment, the right background, the right setup with the camera is just taking a long time, and I'm afraid that if I don't go ahead and make this video that I won't do it. So I wanted to share with you today 5 simple things that you can do that will help the child in your life develop their language. And so we'll just jump right in. The first of the 5 simple things is to communicate with your child, and this means to listen to as well as talk to the child. And yes, this may very well mean that you need to put your cell phone down and pay attention to the child in your life. And I'll just say, when I'm doing this, I'll say your child, but it could be your grandchild, your niece, your nephew, whoever that child is in your life that you may have in mind as we go through these talks. So what this might look like, and let me hold up my little visual aids that I have here. And I'm standing on a stool in order to be the right height. And my computer, just so you know, is on the windowsill, and I have a little stand here that's not made for this camera, so it's pretty crazy. But the first thing that you do is you communicate with your child, and as I said, that not only involves talking to your child, but listening to your child. And what this might look like is, let's say that a 2-year-old comes up to you and they say something like, "No dog." And whereas you might tend to just say, "Well, that doesn't really make any sense, so I'm just going to ignore it," or you might just look at them, kind of smile and say, "Yeah, no dog," and continue what you're doing. Try to engage in a dialogue with this child and see what it is they're trying to tell you. And you might find that your child is trying to, in the only way they know how, because they're limited at this point with their vocabulary, they may be trying to tell you that they're looking for a toy dog. And so you can help them find their dog. Or heaven forbid, they might be trying to tell you that they flushed maybe a toy dog down the toilet or something. So but by paying attention and communicating, listening and communicating with your child, you're teaching them the value of communication. And then you're also teaching them that you're giving them more words to use by following up on what they're telling you. So that's the first thing, is to communicate with your child. The second thing is to narrate your life. And now this one, it may feel a little awkward at first, because what you're going to be doing is you're just simply going to be talking about what you're doing throughout the day. And so, for instance, what this might look like is, let's say that you're at the grocery store with your child or your grandchild, and you're shopping. And so you might say, "We're going to get some bananas now. So let's pick out some bananas together. Let's put these yellow bananas in our basket. And then we're going to go over to another aisle, and we're going to pick out some cereal that you and your sister like." So you're just talking to the child about what you're doing, the simple things that you're doing. Let's say you're in the kitchen, and so you say, "I am washing these tomatoes, and then we're going to put them in the salad. We'll put them in this bowl in the salad." And you talk about what they're doing too. You can say perhaps something like, "You're helping me right now because you're holding the dustpan while I sweep up the dirt off the floor. So you're helping me." Or you're taking your bath, you're getting ready for bed. So just narrate your life. And this will help the child develop language. It helps them with semantics, it helps them with syntax, so your grammar, vocabulary, all of those things. Again, you're communicating with them, and you're showing them their value, and the value of communication. Okay, the third thing is to, let me get my visual aid here, is to read with your child. And notice I didn't say read to your child, which is also a good idea to read to your child, but read with your child is a little bit different, because it's a joint venture, I guess you'd say. It's something you're doing together. So when you do that, you're giving, you have numerous opportunities for your child to develop in the areas of language development and vocabulary expansion. So what this might look like is when you're reading, you might ask questions like, what do you think will happen next? Or, and then give the child a chance to guess what's going to happen next in the story. Or you could ask a question like, how do you think this character feels right now? And give them an opportunity to guess, well, maybe they feel sad right now, maybe they're mad right now, and then let them tell you why they think that. You can even start right off when you look at the outside of the book and just look at the front of the book together and say, what do you think this story is going to be about? Let's look at the picture on the front of the book. What do you think this story is going to be about? That's reading with your child. And I also meant to say that for each of these 5 simple things, I will have one video that's going to explain in a little more depth about each one of these and give a few more examples and a little bit of research. Not a lot, because that can be boring, but a little bit of research that just backs up why these strategies are really good, for you to use with your child, and they do work. So the next thing is to play with your child. Not only to play with your child, but to talk about it. Okay, so instead of, let's see how I can say this in the right way. It's very tempting, and I understand this. It's very tempting, though, to just hand your niece or your nephew your phone and say, just, play with this. And sometimes that's okay, and it's all right to do that. But when you can, and as often as you can, engage with them and play. And even at a restaurant, you can, with an older child, like turn over the back of the child's menu and draw a treasure map on the back. And just engage in creative play, imaginary play. Or when you're at home with a younger child, you can just play with the baby doll, mama and daddy with the baby doll. Or you can pretend that you're firefighters and you're saving their little toys or their little stuffed animals, from a fire. You can pretend that you're cooking, and you can get out little plastic measuring cups and plastic bowls, wooden spoons, and just pretend. And then as you play with them, talk about what you're doing. And so again, you are doing the same type things. You're giving them just a plethora of new words to use, and you're showing them in adult language, not too complex, but you're giving them full sentences, and you're giving them a lot of exposure to language, and a lot of exposure to you. And there's just nothing better than that. Exposure to you and exposure to the process of communicating. And the last of the 5 simple things that you can do is something called expanding the utterance. An utterance is just simply something that a child says. It can be one word. And so expanding an utterance is just basically taking what they say, not necessarily adding anything to it, but just adding more, not adding anything to the meaning, I should say, but adding more words to it and making it more like an adult utterance. And so I believe that you can even do this with a nonverbal communication, just a child pointing. You can take a point and a child pointing, and you can add a word or two to that and give them something that they can try to say next time, something they can try to do next time. So what this might look like, let's say that your grandchild or your child looks at your cat and they say, cat, sleep. And this is a common thing for kids to do, is just say like a noun and a verb, and that's really good. And so what you might want to do is just give them, just take it one step further, give them a good example of what they might be trying to say next, and say, yes, the cat is sleeping. So the child says, cat sleep, and so you give them some encouragement, and you say, yes, that's right, the cat is sleeping. So you've given them encouragement, and then you've also given them an entire sentence. Yes, the cat is sleeping. So you've added is in there, your little linking verb, and you've added the ing. So, or say your child, let's say their name is Richard, and Richard says, Richard grapes. He's eating grapes, and he says his name, and he says a noun, which is also a common thing for little ones to do. So he says Richard grapes, and you could say, yes, Richard is eating grapes. And then you could kind of extend that a little bit and say, Richard, you could say, you are eating grapes, or you could expand it and say, Richard is eating grapes, you are eating grapes. And then you could extend it a little bit, another term that we use in speech therapy, and say, and I am eating a banana. So you've added some new information. So again, your child might say their name. In this case, we're using Richard grapes, and you look at them and you say, yes, Richard is eating grapes. And then you could kind of add in the concept of using I by saying, you are eating grapes, and I am eating a banana. So that gives them a lot of information right there. So to sum it up, I'm going to cover my face up, and here's the 5 things again. Okay, so we have communicate with your child, narrate your life, read with your child, play with your child, and talk about it. And hope you can see all this. And also expand the utterance. So that's what we're going to stop with today. Those 5 simple things that you can do. They're simple in that they're something that you can just throw in your day, and once you start doing them, it just becomes a part of your life. But now on the one where you're talking about what you're doing throughout the day, the narrating your life, you might want to make sure that you stop doing that when you're just with adults only, because they might look at you a little strange when you start talking about everything that you're doing, and it might not make you very popular. So that's all for today. I hope that this helps. Goodbye.